Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Punatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So you'll want all the gossip of what happened in Delhi. It was a very nice trip. Rishi Hood University, we did that course, and everybody said many nice things as usual. And probably we'll do a 1-month residential course in July soon. I mean, soon means in July. We'll probably do that. Then what happened? Then I went to Delhi and I met some of our team on Sunday. And then, I met students when I was in Delhi 27 years ago. They were attending my classes in Delhi. I mean, the first class, my own class, first I used to just substitute, but my first class, which I took, my own class, like in Delhi, 27 years ago, those people had all come. Can you believe that? And they were very, very encouraging and supported our work. One of them has tried to raise funds for the thing, and she sent back with me a check for 3 lakhs. And she said, I will do more. I mean, she's collecting. So as you all know, I don't know, you know, right? Do you all know what is the status currently with the university? You all know that? Or nobody knows? Okay. So what has happened is we have located the land, the papers have gone to the lawyers who are now doing their whatever legal stuff they're supposed to do. And the disaster is that we are 1.5 crores short. Can't hear, Uttara? What about the rest of you? Can you hear? Can you hear? Mm-hmm. So yes, Uttara, I think it may be on your end. So desperate attempts to try to get something. Where are we to get 1.45 CR from, right? So met many people. I met the chairman of the board of Ashoka, and then we are going to do something with them. There was a talk at Jindal. There was a talk at one of the houses of the person in whose house I had a class, started the classes 27 years ago. Mala's house, we had a talk. She called some old people, some new people. And then what else happened? Then we had a talk at the house of V.N. Dalmia, the Dalmia residents. Met the chairman of Ashoka University. And what else? What else happened? We had a talk at O.P. Jindal, had a talk at Vasant Vihar Club. I think that's about it. It's more of the same, if anything I forgot. So that's what happened in Delhi. And of course, next week now is Paris. Joyce, you're all prepared for Paris. So next week is going to be Paris now. I'll come back 2 weeks later.
Let's just hope that the situation will calm down.
Oh, is it bad at the moment?
Yes, very bad.
Oh my God.
Violent protests and setting fire to everything in major cities in France. It's very bad.
They do that every once in a while. That yellow vest and something was there also earlier. Every city in the world, they do this. It's just part of normal life nowadays.
Yes, absolutely.
So, so that's what's happened, and that's what's happening. So, coming back to devotee of God. So we did 35 qualities. We finished all the 35 qualities. You have any questions on the 35 qualities? Yavu, you are not muted. So unless you want to ask something, you may like to mute yourself. Okay, so then let's proceed. Who will read the next paragraph?
I can read.
I'll read the chant. A devotee of God is one who is endowed with 35 qualities. True devotion means faith in good rather than faith in God. The general concept of devotion, Bhakti, does not seem to have any bearing on these qualities. A person with none of these qualities is still reputed to be a great devotee, Bhakta. The non-essentials of devotions are blown up at the expense of the essentials. People in ignorance accept fanatic attachment and following of a particular deity or personality, creed, or cult as devotion. Devotion is not simple as that. The devotional path requires a high level of discipline and training to develop the divine traits. Yeah, so it's essentially saying that people have mistaken the symbols for the substance. And that true devotion requires immense focus and shraddha to develop the traits or the qualities which was mentioned earlier. And it's not about rituals and other paraphernalia.
Very good. So the concept of the bhakta is the purity of the individual. His emotions are so pure, therefore his intellect is so bright. And so the concept of who is a bhakta is actually just described a person of spiritual growth. But we seem to have forgotten the essentials, and we seem to sort of highlight the non-essentials. If we see a person going very regularly to a temple or church or mosque, or putting on symbols, different types of symbols of religiosity, we will attribute bhakti to that person. So he's just drawing our attention to the fact that you may not have any of this. There's a very nice story from the Christian folklore, and it goes like this: that a missionary was on a ship, and he was going to come into the underdeveloped nations to spread the word of Christ, to spread the word of God. And while he was coming on that big ship, something happened to the ship, and it got sort of there was a problem developed in the ship. And so they went to the closest island so that they can go to the island and fix the ship. And when they went to that island, there were 3 brothers living there. And the story goes that the missionary, they just like to convert. So he went to those 3 people and he said, do you know God? And then they said, yeah. And he said, do you know the Lord's Prayer? And he says, no, we don't know the Lord's Prayer, but we pray to him every day. So they said that, so the missionary said, so what do you say? So these 3 brothers said, we are 3, you are 3, take mercy on us. So the missionary was shocked. He said, what are you saying? You can't say it like that. Say it properly. And he tried to teach them the Lord's Prayer. O Father, thou art in heaven. All Christians have to say this prayer. So, Father, thou art so in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. So he tried to teach them. He said, no, you can't do all this funny stuff you're doing. You learn the Lord's Prayer properly. And then, he had to stay on that island naturally for a few days while they fixed the boat. And the story goes that they were illiterate people, right? So they had a lot of trouble learning this. And so finally, after a few days later, they were able to learn this prayer. And then he was very happy. He he baptized them. He said, okay, now you're Christians and you say the prayer properly. And I'm so happy that I was able to do this for you. And they said, thank you so much. We're so delighted that we have found the right path and everything. And then the missionary leaves. And the ship is sailing, going off wherever it is going. And then suddenly there's some tumult on the ship. Because far away in the distance, they can see some very odd thing. You can't see it, it's so far away. They're seeing something very odd happening, and nobody knows what it is. So all the sailors and everybody is peering, what's happening over there? And then it's like they're seeing some dark figures, they don't know what it is. And then slowly the thing, whatever it is approaching them. So they are worried that, probably there's some sea monster or they don't know what it is. You can't tell. And so they're all like, they pick up their guns, they're very prepared, like, what is happening here? And they can see whatever that thing is approaching them. And as it approaches, it can't be. And then when they're very close, they're able to make out that those 3 brothers which they had met over there, those 3 brothers are running on the waters and coming to the ship. They're running fast on those waters and coming. So you are aware, you have to know the background, which is that Christ walks on water. So they're coming running on that, on the waters. They're chasing the ship. And they're saying, stop, 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 stop. So they set anchor and they come, these 3 get onto the ship and they're looking for the priest. And they say, where is Father? And we want to meet him. And so the missionary comes in front of them and says, what happened? They said, Father, we are such sinners. We learned the prayer with you so nicely. But as soon as you had gone, then we seem to have forgotten that prayer. So please, please, please teach us this prayer again. And the missionary said, remember they came running on water. So it's okay. You pray the way you are praying. We 3, you 3, Lord, have mercy on us. And then he sends them away. In other words, those people had the purity, they had the development. Now no ritual becomes necessary when you have achieved that much. That's why, the story was running on the water. So, very interesting story, isn't it? And so that's exactly what this paragraph is talking about. Let us not highlight the non-essentials at the cost of the essentials. How you say your prayers is not important. What is the feeling and the thinking behind it that is important. If I pray to the Lord every day, but I'm not interested in anything but my own selfish interest. In fact, I'll go about killing other people for my selfish interest, but I'm praying to the Lord every day. Simply doesn't count. So he says, Bhakti is the faith in good more than the faith in God. You can claim love for your God, but if you've not got purity, not counted. Next para. Who will read the next para?
I can read.
Deepraj, are you reading it?
Can you hear
You
me?
have been unmuted, so I'm assuming you are.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. The real and earnest part of devotion is seen in the annihilation of the ego, self-effacement. A true devotee considers himself a spoke in the wheel of life, surrenders his individuality to the totality, to the general plan of nature, recognizes and feels the divinity in and around. So it says that the fundamental part of devotion is to dissolve the ego.
Very good. What is devotion is the dissolution of the ego. The more you think about yourself, the less of a bhakta you are. It's that simple. So when you see that you are no more important than anybody else, no less important than anybody else. We're all in this somehow together. And if we can work together, if we can be together, if we can support one another, good, right? We are in this together. When you see that yourself, it's just a part of that whole picture. No, not anything particularly more important or less important. Because you understand that. And it's quite a difficult thing because even when I was there this time in Delhi this time, I found all these people who claim to be so interested in yoga and spiritual development and all of this. And they said, oh, we've learned all about self-awareness and things like that. But that self-awareness has become almost a morbid interest in oneself. This happened to me, that happened to me, that happened, this happened. It's all a constant autobiography. So in my own mental space, I am a very important person. I am dealing with people properly. People are doing bad things to me, but I am able to handle them. It's all I. And these people genuinely think that they are being very, very spiritual. They call it self-awareness. It's not self-awareness, it's just ego. I am so important. My views are so important. My joys and sorrows are so important. Everything about me is important. Self-awareness is not this kind of thing. Self-awareness means that in every situation, I concentrate on how I can do it better rather than just criticizing other people. I recognize that I am part of that situation. Otherwise, I have a fight with a friend. So in my mind, it's very clear that the friend is the cause of the problem. Self-awareness means I realize I am in that situation too. I mean, I'm part of that equation too. When you think your friend is the cause of the problem, it's a victim mentality. When you realize I am part of that equation, you take control of the situation. So, but self-awareness nowadays has come to mean just a development of the ego. I am this, I am that, but I don't do this and I don't do that. I do this and I do that all the time. It's a very, very frightening thing to think that people who are interested in spirituality, who claim to believe in it, are on such a egoistical path and don't know about it. And there is no way to communicate. All the time, I am this, I am this. Who wants to know what you are? Just handle the situation. If you can handle it, handle it. If you can't handle it, ask for help. Isn't that very simple? So the real and earnest part of devotion is the annihilation of the ego. Annihilation of the ego means I see myself as part of the picture. I don't see myself as the most important facet of this picture. I am just part of the picture like anything else is. Like you're seeing a screen, right? There's some book, there's a curtain, there's a plant, there's a model ship. When I am there, it's part of the picture. All these things are there. But when I see myself as the queen of the picture, that is called ego. So much we want to tell people what we have done. So much. And if somebody doesn't acknowledge that we have done it, we are very uncomfortable. Surrenders his individuality to the totality. What does that mean? That means you do not insist that in the wider scheme of things, your desires and their fulfillment are the most important. Surrenders his individuality to the totality. Does not make demands. The general plan of nature is acceptable. And so what does that mean? Simple thing. We are all born, right? We have a body. All of us have. What is the plan of nature? The plan of nature is that this body will occasionally not be well. It will get disease. That's the plan of nature. Why is the internal resistance? It is the plan of nature that this body will eventually grow old. Just as it grew from that, some sort of a multicellular thing, little bit, into a proper infant, like a full baby. It's just one globule first, right? And then somehow that globule becomes like a proper, well-formed baby. And this baby will grow up. then there will be disease, there will be decay. The hair will go white. But we should say, thank God, otherwise it will go. Your choices are either it goes white or it goes. So good that it is white, because then it's at least there. Hearing will come down. Eyesight will come down. Cognition will become more difficult. This is the normal scheme of nature. So why should there be so much internal resistance to it? We take care of our health. We put on whatever cream or dye or whatever in the world you want to do. There's no problem with any of that. You put on nice moisturizers, you put on, nowadays, all these dermatologists tell you must put on sunscreen. So put on sunscreen, put on moisturizer, whatever in the world you're supposed to do to take care of yourself. Of course you will do all of that. But your heart won't skip a beat because you notice that this body is deteriorating. It's not that you're trying to make it deteriorate. It's not that you're not doing enough to maintain the body, but it is that there's no internal resistance to that age. Fine with it. So following the scheme of nature means you understand how things happen. It doesn't mean that you don't do anything about it. Of course, you do whatever you can, but you also understand that there is a scheme of things. Just as we were born, we are going to die. This is the scheme of things. So you surrender to the totality means you are okay with what is happening. You don't have a problem with what is happening. Now, if you say, okay, now I'm growing old, let me just grow old, then that becomes tamasic. Why don't you take care of yourself? If you say, oh, I'm growing old, oh my God, I'm growing old, then that is rajasic. So you don't need rajas, getting all worked up, I'm growing old. You don't need tamas, okay, Baba, I'm growing old, let my body just fade. Not on this stuff either. You do whatever you're supposed to do. You put on the cream, you do the exercise, you eat the right food, whatever, go to the salon, whatever in the world you think you ought to do, please do it. But there's no internal resistance. And the highest form of bhakti eventually, I hope you're able to see the thing. Firstly, you are not very important. And therefore, the plan of nature, you have no resistance to. You understand? Things are that way. COVID will come, COVID will go, then COVID will come again, again it will go, again it will come, then so on. Riots come, riots go, then again riots come, riots go. Terrorists take action, then everything keeps on. You know, in Mumbai, what a terrible terrorist attack there was some time ago, how many people died in it. And it really shook the city up. I mean, can you imagine these people, whether it was a Taj or whether it was VT, just shooting everybody. When anybody inside, they would shoot them. It really shook up the city. And then what happened? Then we've all forgotten, right? And we continued with our life. And then what happened after some time? Some other crazy guys will decide to do something crazy. Again, we'll all get up in arms. Again, it will subside. Such is life. What can we do? We thought that if we escape the forest, we'll escape the carnivores. So human beings left the forest and went to the cities. But the carnivores won't leave us, right? If not the tiger, then the terrorist, somebody or the other is going to get behind us. It's just the scheme of things. Just as there are zebra, just as there are wildebeest, there are the carnivores, the top of the food chain, who are going to kill them and eat them. I assume we are the zebras. We are, right? We're the sitting ducks. Any time a terrorist can come and start shooting. I mean, How do you even know that this is going to happen? And yet we continue with our life. So there's a scheme of things around here. Winter, summer, winter. How we progress in life. Things get better and better. Then they get worse and worse. Then again they get better and better. Tamasic people are tamasic. Rajasic people are rajasic. Sattvic people continue to be sattvic. This is a scheme of things. And for us to get in and say, this scheme shouldn't be there, it doesn't work. So when there is no ego, there are no demands. And when there are no demands, then you see the divinity everywhere. Means you're able to say, Ascharya, Ascharya. It's wonderment. It's a wonderment how all this happens. How does it happen, right? This whole thing. Seasons change so regularly. It's a wonderment. The wonderment how that child is born. Wonderment how nature delivers to us a fully wrapped banana. Well wrapped it comes. Then the fruits also come all along. Now in Mumbai, the Alfonso mangoes will start. Everybody will go crazy with everything will have mango in it. It will have mango ice cream, mango kulfi, ras. That's the juice of the mango, then the full mango, then the mango in like every desert on the surface of the earth. The cake will have mango and the cheesecake will have mango. Everywhere there'll be mango. Then when the monsoon starts, all this mango phase is gone. And something else will start, and something else will start, and something. And go on year after year in the same manner. So, when you see a wonderment in how all this is happening, it is a recognition of a divinity, of some reality, of some foundation, of some stability in this whole thing. Day follows night, night follows day. There is stability, right? What is that stability? That final stability lies in the self. So you see that divinity splashed everywhere. Just amazed at it. Amazed how everything is going on. If you take yourself out of that equation, it's as wonderful as seeing a play on the stage. So many things happen in that play, right? And you just watch with rapt attention. Why are you watching that with rapt attention? You've taken yourself out. Means not taken, you have got involved in it because you're sort of seeing that play, but there's something in you that is a part. So you're fully with the play, as it were. You're totally involved in the play. And yet there is something apart. So that capacity, if we do this in our life all the time, just stay objective all the time to what is going on. See the play of divinity. That is bhakti. You're recognizing the Lord everywhere. Now you say, why is that bhakti? Think of it. Suppose there is Majnu. Okay, Majnu. You know Laila Majnu, Joyce? You know Laila Majnu? Okay. So there is this Majnu. He's crazy about Laila. And he loves Laila so much. And from a distance he sees some girl coming. Who will he think it is?
Laila.
Yeah? You know that, right? Like a girl, you seem to see her everywhere. Some dress reminds you of her. Then some flower reminds you of her. Then you see a pastry, you say, oh, this pastry she likes a lot. Isn't it? So when you are in love with somebody, everything reminds you of that person. If you are a bhakta, you are in love with God, then how will you not see him everywhere? Of course you'll see him everywhere, isn't it? You love the Lord. You see him everywhere. You see his hand everywhere. You can only see him in the temple. That means you are not Majnu for that Leela. You just Majnu will see anything and think of Laila. A bhakta can see anything and think of God. Which is natural, whatever you love. Suppose you love money very much. Okay, you're very focused on money, you love it a lot. Everything you will see as money. When you meet any human being, you will see, oh, is he rich or poor? Any human being. All you're concerned with is he rich or poor. Then you have to go for a party somewhere. Then you're concerned, are they rich kind of thing or poor kind of thing? You have to go to travel to a country. Again, you're rich or poor all the time. So whatever you love, you'll see it everywhere. Even if you go to a doctor's office, you'll say, oh, all rich people come to this doctor. You're not concerned, can he cure you or not cure you? You're only concerned that, oh, he seems to have a rich clientele. So when you love something, you see it everywhere. A Vedanta student will try to put Vedanta in every conversation he has. Yes, because that is true. You must try to avoid such things. But yes, it is true. Whatever you like, will every pore of your body will deal with that. You talk of it, you'll see it, you'll hear it, you'll smell it, you'll taste it, everything will be around that thing. Okay, so is this clear that the earnest part of devotion is the annihilation of the ego, which translates as reduction of demands? And when your demands reduce, what will you see but the divinity? So Bhakta is one who is constantly seeing the divinity. Seeing the divinity in sense, he experiences it, he thinks about it. Just as Majnu thinks about Laila. Just as a person who is money focused thinks about money. Whatever your interest is, you see that thing. Okay, this paragraph is clear. Ajay Joshi, are you new to the class?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So where have you come from?
First time I am joining.
Oh, I see. How did you know about the class?
It was some time back. I had been in the group. I do not recollect because it is more than few months I'm in the group, but I could never join it. And I think from some social media, somewhere I came to know about it.
All right.
But it is the first time I am joining it.
Welcome. And M, who is M? Today somebody has put M. I don't know who is M. So Ajay, if you have any questions, if something is not clear, please feel free to ask, okay? Because since we are in the flow, sometimes I take for granted that everybody knows what's going on. But if something's not clear, please feel free to ask. Are you good
Sure,
so far?
thanks.
All good so far?
Yes.
And M, who are you? Are you new? Are you old?
Meera, ma'am, Meera.
Meera, okay. You just
Sorry, I'm somewhere else, quite far away.
okay. So far so good, everybody. Now shall we go to the next paragraph? Who will read it?
I'll read.
Please do, Bhumi.
Devotion and love are the same emotion, differing in direction, not in nature. When a feeling of affection, fondness is directed to your equals or lower beings or objects, it is called love. The same directed towards the higher is known as devotion. You love your friend, your child, your pet, but you are devoted to your parents, Guru, God. Therefore, one cannot claim to have devotion to God if he has no love for his fellow beings. This idea has been very well captured by James Henry Leigh Hunt in his poem Abu Ben Adhem. So here we are seeing that devotion and love are the same emotion, where love is what we feel towards those who are junior to us, and devotion is something. Sorry?
Or equals.
Or equals, yes. And devotion is something we feel to those who we feel are senior to us.
To something higher. Very.
To something higher, yes.
So love and emotion is exactly the same feeling. If it's towards something equal or lower, it becomes love. If it's something higher, we call it devotion. It's that simple. So if you claim to have devotion in your heart, then obviously there is love in your heart. So when your attention falls on something equal or lower, you will feel the love, affection called love. And if it falls on something higher, then you feel the same affection called devotion. Just the fact that it is higher makes it devotion. And if you love the higher, how on earth is it possible? If you have devotion, how is it possible not to have love? It can't be done, right? Because remember, if your thoughts go to the higher, then everything below, it gets covered. In other words, if your thoughts go to the nation, then everything below, that means Sindhis and Punjabis and Bengalis and Tamilians and all of that will get covered. So the moment you go to the higher, suppose you say your thoughts go to Europe, then France and Belgium and Germany and everything gets covered in that. If I care for Europe, all of these will be included, right? So when you have affection for the higher, it is not possible to not have lower love for the lower. Yeah?
The vice versa is not true, no?
Vice versa. When you love the lower, you won't love the higher, because that's the nature of things, right? So if you love only Punjabis, then how can you love Indians? Then you'll say, oh, he's a Tamilian, I don't like him.
So it's not true that if you only love the lower, it doesn't mean you have devotion for the higher.
Yes, of course. How is that possible?
Yeah. Yes, okay.
Janki-ji, would that...
Sorry?
Yeah, sorry, I had a question. So would that even be love then? If you are only restricted towards a certain community, I mean, wouldn't that be attachment then?
Yes, it would be attachment, but if it's a see, love and attachment is a difference of degree, right? So at what? So if you're saying I love the community, well, you're less attached than a person who loves his family. Because from family, community is higher.
I'll think about it. Thank you.
Okay. So anyone has anything?
Yeah, Janki-ji, I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
The absence of ego is a requirement also for love, right? It's only the direction that changes between devotion and love. But the absence of ego is an essential part of both the emotions.
Just think about it. What is love? Love is identification.
Exactly.
Identification means you and I, as far as I'm concerned, are one. So then how is it possible to have an ego? Ego means the difference, right? I am different from you. That's the ego sense.
For example, for the fact that I have a love for Punjabis, it's because I am identifying myself as a Punjabi, which is the ego.
No, which is reduction of the ego. Okay, ego is not one thing, right? I think Bharat had also the same problem. This is all degrees. So ego is when I think that this is me. So if I think that this body, mind, intellect is me, then your body, mind, intellect is different from my body, mind, intellect, right? So that is that ego sense. But when I say that I am my family, then my ego is automatically reduced. If I say I'm my community, what I am means I identify with my community, then the ego is reduced to that extent. Or let's take a Mahatma Gandhi who identifies with the country, then proportionately his ego will be lower. So identification, ego are opposite. Identification means you and I are one. Ego means you and I are separate.
Okay, like Bharat, I'll also have to think. But I thought ego means identification with oneself. The more one identifies with oneself, the more the ego.
Correct. And so what is the opposite of identifying with oneself?
Separating from others.
No, opposite. What is the opposite of identifying with
Identifying with everybody else or others.
Yeah, that's correct.
But that's where my problem is. I'm saying because I identify myself strongly as being let's say a Gujarati, I identify with other Gujaratis and not so much with others.
So to the extent you identify with Gujaratis, to that extent, you have reduced your ego about yourself being just this body, mind, intellect. Because whatever now happens to the Gujaratis has happened to you.
And also this is a very geography or location specific. If I am in Bombay, maybe I see myself as a Gujarati. If I am outside of India, I see myself as an Indian. So this changes also. So is my ego changing or what is happening?
No, ego is not changing. What happens is everything in this world is very relative. When you're outside this country and you meet another Indian, then you say, I'm Indian. But you are outside this country and you meet meet two Indians, one who's Punjabi, one who's Gujarati, then you still go back to Gujarati. So it's all relative.
Yes, that's correct. Got it. Yeah, thanks.
So Joyce, what is the connection between ego and identity? You mean an identification? Is that what you're asking? Or identity? Because it is
what we call identity is a set of values and concepts that we feel that we belong to. This is my identity. I am a mother. I am from this country. So this is my identity. So where does ego fit in with this identity?
It's the same.
It's the same.
Because your identity is an individuality. And you're saying, this is this individuality. This is me. And you have a different identity and a different individuality. So
yes,
now that creation of this duality is ego. Ego means this is me, you are not me. So I'm more interested in this than in that. But suppose we look upon it as we are all Vedanta students. Now suddenly it all becomes one. So we will get very upset. How dare you talk to a Vedanta student like that? If somebody from outside comes and says something, how dare you talk to a Vedanta student like that? Because now your identity is this group. So, suppose somebody says something about Lebanese. Suppose somebody says, "Oh, I love Lebanese food." Then you will preen as if you have made all that food. So because of that identification, you feel one with all of that. Do you cook Lebanese food, Joyce?
Yes.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yes. When we come to Lebanon, we'll taste your food also.
You should, yes. I am based in Cyprus actually, but I am from Lebanon.
Where are you? You stay in Lebanon now, right?
No, I am based in Cyprus.
Oh, now you're in Cyprus. Oh, I see.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. But I am from Lebanon, yes.
So, yes, Milan.
Janki ji, suppose anybody say, I love my country, I love my fellow beings. Devotion will be for whom? It is now higher thing you are loving, then devotion will be for what is higher than country?
No. Country is higher than the communities in the country.
Or suppose you are loving country, then
that is the higher. So everything below you will love. So if you love the country.
No, I'm saying you are loving country. Then devotion will be for whom?
That is your devotion. You mean a higher than that devotion? Then for humanity, it could be for your continent. You see yourself like, see the Europeans, they say we are EU, beyond the patriotic boundaries, right? And then the Asians, if you happen to be in America, then they call you Asians. So then you go from country to say the continent. So we are all Asian or whatever it is. Some people say, I identify with all women. So all half the planet they've identified with, they claim. So or I identify with all men and half the planet. And then higher than that, you can say, I identify with human beings. Why are we dividing men and women? Why do we need to keep dividing this thing? One way or the other, we want to keep dividing it. So because something is me and something is not me. But when we are able to see everything as me, that's the height of devotion.
No, but Janki, suppose you have love for lower whatever beings. So devotion will be automatic higher or
no? If you love all Punjabis, how will you automatically love India?
So not necessarily.
If you love India, you love all Punjabis and Maharashtrians and Gujaratis and Tamilians and Orients and Assamese, then everybody gets counted. Otherwise, then those people are not us, those people are not, cut those out.
What he has to do? Somebody loving only particular community, then for devotion, what he has to do?
If he loves only his community, he has to somehow try to move it up to the nation.
Okay. But how
he will love every community?
How he will develop that devotion?
That's what we're doing in class.
So he has to attend Vedanta classes. Okay.
That's why he says, no, when your bhakti increases, your understanding of life, whatever you want to call it, your understanding of Vedanta, your understanding of life, your bhakti, identification grows. And if your identification hasn't grown and you claim I'm a Vedantin or I'm a religious person or whatever in the world you claim, then this is
a false attribution. It is to increase.
It's a false attribution. It is not. It is to be increased, Vedanta will never say, because Vedanta will never give an instruction. It just says it's a false attribution. This is an incorrect statement you're making. Because that's all Vedanta does. It says it's an incorrect statement. Okay, Deepraj, just a technical question. The ego seems to put a distinction between me and not me. So it recognizes a duality. Why don't we then classify it under the intellect? Oh, I see. Interesting. We don't classify it under the intellect because it is not the discrimination of the intellect that does this. So human beings, all of us, have thoughts. And in this subject, they've been classified in various ways. And one of the ways in which it has been classified is Mano, Buddhi, Chit, Ahamkar. You may have heard this classification, 4 of them. So what is the man? What is the mind? When you have emotions, likes and dislikes, greed, anger, hate, jealousy, all the irrational side of the personality, when all that is there, you call this whole bunch the mind, your mind. Then there's another side to us which reasons, which thinks, which discriminates, which judges, and that is known as the buddhi or intellect. Now, there's a third angle in this, which says that these emotions are mine, or this thinking is mine, as opposed to yours. That sense in me that divides my beliefs from your beliefs, my emotions from your emotions, that is known as the ego. And chit is the conditioned consciousness. This is irrelevant at the moment, but the conditioned consciousness. Is that clear? So it is not a discrimination. It is a possession. It's the sense of possession. That this mind, this intellect is mine. It's not yours. Identification is just the opposite.
Janki-ji,
Yeah, 1 second, Jay, I'll just come to you. Is that fine with you, Deepak? I'll just come to you. Yeah, Momita asked her question later. So come, yeah, go ahead, Jay.
So this love, it is what domain of man or intellect or chit or ego.
All emotions come in the mind.
So love is basically man. So it doesn't have any logic. But intellect is playing a role.
Yeah. Intellect's only role is no matter what you are feeling, you don't start acting on it. Suppose you develop universal affection. Okay, in class you learned you to have universal affection. Then you step out of your house in Bhopal, right? Jabalpur, right?
Jabalpur.
You step out of your house at Jabalpur. And the first person you see, you give him a tight hug. You say, I love you so much. Then what will happen? That poor person will get a heart attack. So your intellect will tell you, please, your love is very good. Just leave it in your heart. When it comes to action, you have to think what you want to do. So the role of the intellect is only to prevent irresponsible, inappropriate actions.
I love my kid. And it is many times maybe irrational. It doesn't, I don't think about logic or someone tells me to love. I just happen to love.
Of course.
And you call it as attachment.
No. Why should I call it anything?
Because if something happens to the kid, I weep. If something happens to him, I weep. So you say that no, your intellect is there. So you are not supposed to weep, this and that, all that happens.
No. Who said that? Who said? Nobody said you're not supposed to weep. If something happens to somebody's child and they don't weep, there's something wrong with them, no? Can you imagine a father, something's happened to the child, he's gone to play tash. Is this possible? There's something wrong, no, with the father if that happens. Nobody's saying don't weep. They're saying please go ahead and weep. But whenever you're performing an action, think carefully what you want to do. Let us say there's a father and the child ran on the road and a car was coming and something happened to that child. Now, something happened to the child. Now, that father is going to be very upset. But because he's upset, he's going and beating up that fellow or killing that fellow, then this child will not have a father later on because this fellow is going to be in jail. So, whatever you feel, be careful what you do. So, you can't afford to get so carried away in that emotion that you're actually doing damage to the person you love. Like in this case, that father now killed that fellow whoever hurt the child. Now the child doesn't have a father because the father's in jail. So how is that helping the situation?
But all along, I have been made to understand that limiting myself to my family or my job or my this thing, my car, my house, like that, mine, that is all in fact is the root cause for my suffering, and I am supposed to annihilate that feeling. So now
Stop. This sense of mindness is the cause of suffering, full stop. That's all Vedanta says. Everything else is yours. So nobody has told you to do anything. Nobody has told you anything. If you accept, think about it. All we need to do is understand, is the sentence true? That the concept of mindness leads to suffering. Vedanta only suggests that the concept of mindness leads to suffering. Now our job is, I have to analyze it and find out whether the statement is true or false. Vedanta is not saying don't have mindness. It doesn't say anything. It's a set of laws. It is not telling us.
it riddles me, Janki-ji. When I feel that Janki-ji is my guru, then I get emotion, I got attachment, I get tears, and you can call it that emotion as love or whatever it is. When I say that you are mine, then the kind of emotion it comes, that is I find more elevating or whatever. So if you call it as love, and when someone criticizes you or something, then I do get anger. So anger seems to be natural outcome.
Right. So watch, correct. See how you've understood. Whenever there is a feeling of mindness, there is a natural agitation involved. If anyone criticizes that person, I am going to get agitated. So now I have one more problem to deal with. So what they say is that the way to deal with it is don't restrict the mindness to only a few people, increase it. If you increase the mindness, okay, you say, okay, my teacher is my teacher. And then say, all the people in the class are my people. So you increased it. So as we keep on increasing, someday maybe the whole world will be mine.
Doesn't it dilute the strength of my emotion, Janki?
No, it makes it much more powerful. When you thought only you, before your marriage, or you're married, right? Before your marriage and all, you were mast mola. You went where you wanted, you came when you wanted, you did whatever you wanted. Then what happens? You got married. When you got married, what happens? That I want something and all has to decrease because now I have somebody with me. Then I got a child. Then that emotion is even more because I am now less because now there are 3 or 4 of us. So if I can see how my emotions actually grown when my mind has included more, then I will understand if my mind includes even more, my actual emotion grows and grows. So the depth of my emotion grows.
So you are suggesting that I should embrace the whole world as mine?
No. I am not suggesting anything. I am only telling you the facts of life. It's not for me to suggest how you live your life. You will choose whatever way. But we should just analyze together, is the statement true? Is it true that every time you included one more person in your sense of mind, you had more emotion? Is this true? If according to you it is true, then surely if you increase it more, it will be more. It's not always easy to increase it more. So when you increase it, you say, I'm feeling nothing. But when you feel, it will be more.
Thank you, Janki.
If one of your child criticizes another child, you don't get angry at your child because you identify with both. Once you have a higher level of buddhi, Arun Sehgal, once you have a higher level of buddhi, you do not get down to the lower level. But when it comes to bhakti, it keeps oscillating. On 15th August, you identify with the nation. Next day, you're talking about your state versus my state. Yes, correct. That was also what Omkar was saying. Because these are not real emotions. what you feel on 15th August is not your real love. What you do on a daily basis in your country is your real love. Just as when you give a conducive environment to the mind for anything, that thing will come to the surface. Suppose I'm doing a tiger in front of you, terrified, right? But that's not a normal condition of the mind. It's the conducive environment that has brought that about. So even when we're in class, we're very objective, but then we lose it later on. So this is not a real emotion.
So this is, you're temporarily inspired.
That's right.
But this is not bhakti.
That's right. Okay.